Hi, welcome to the webcast today. This is Christine Sten with StaffingTec. I want to welcome you to the webcast and turn you over shortly to our presenters. But first, just a couple housekeeping items. Please note that you are all as attendees in mute mode. We will be fielding questions throughout the webcast, so please use the questions function within your webinar dashboard, and we will be fielding those throughout the webinar. I'd like to introduce Maurice, Ninh Tran, and Michael Doran. Maurice?
Hello, welcome to today's episode of StaffingTec TV. StaffingTec TV is made possible by the support of our sponsors, Dice, get tech talent faster and easier through Dice, JXT, providing cloud-based digital marketing solutions for staffing firms and corporate hiring teams, and eTechie, technical skills assessment and screening made easy with expert freelance IT interviews. Well, there's no doubt about it. Staffing industry technology is evolving at a rapid pace, and there's an entire stack of technologies that staffing firms need to be innovating around in order to prepare their firms for the future. We have our staffing tech stack on the screen, which outlines a framework for how we look at staffing technologies used within the context of staffing firms. And as time goes on, we're seeing staffing firms taking on more and more technologies within a greater number of categories in the staffing technology stack. And every category is being filled with more solutions, and the solutions in every category are becoming increasingly sophisticated. Every one of these areas is becoming increasingly infused with more and more AI. So AI is really becoming pervasive everywhere throughout the staffing technology stack. So you can find a copy of our staffing tech stack, which can be downloaded from the handouts within this webinar. Today we're zeroing in on AI and machine learning, and our view is that AI and machine learning are enabling technologies that will become pervasive everywhere for every category within our tech stack. So today with us, we have Ninh Tran, who's the Chief Relationship Officer from Hiretual. And we also have Michael Doran from Sourced LLC. He's a partner. And we're going to dive deep into the subject of AI and recruiting and talk about where we are today and where AI will be taking us into the future. Ninh and Michael, welcome to today's episode.
Thanks, Larry. Pleasure to be here.
All right. So let's start with our first question. So Ninh, in previous discussions, you've talked about how community and partnership are critical in AI-driven sourcing. For those of you who may not have read the blog, can you please share your point of view on that and expand a bit further?
Okay, so community is extremely critical for any company that is building artificial intelligence, just because right now AI is in the process of building knowledge, right? So for example, for our AI, it essentially lays on top of a deep knowledge graph where we get to sit down with community experts, subject matter experts like Michael Doran, like Dean DaCosta, like Karen Azulai, like Steve Levy, and really see them, how they do their work, how they find the candidates, how they screen candidates, how they read the resumes and profiles to determine if the person is a good match or not, and take that knowledge back into the drawing board with our AI engineers, who then put together algorithms to essentially crunch through all of that candidate data to inform the knowledge graph and create a ever-learning loop that the machine can evolve, right? So essentially, the benefit for any recruiter and sourcer is that you have, you can source a little bit like Michael Doran, a little bit like Steve Levy and Dean DaCosta, without having to go through all of their hard lessons that they had to do, or thousands and thousands of hours really sourcing and recruiting to be able to go through a resume split second and say, hey, this guy's good, this guy's not good, just by looking at his title, where he's in, right? Working with the hiring managers as well. So, it's definitely not an exact copy of their knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely like a transfer of knowledge. But at the same time, you can do this, the AI can do this at a scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't, you can't hire Michael Dora, and maybe you can, right? Or you can't really hire Dean DaCosta. You can train people, right? But giving a tool like this, where that the artificial intelligence has been informed and taught by the community and people in it who actually do the work,
mm-hmm.
right? Can immediately boost your recruiters' talents just by using it. So for us, it's very important. Even when you think about like people putting too many things on their resumes, right? Just buzzwords. Everyone's freelancer is the CEO of their own company, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So how do you cut through the noise? So these are the questions that we ask our experts and try to figure out a way how to build it into an AI solution.
That's absolutely fascinating, this idea that you can take some of the world's best sourcers and then capture their methods and their expertise and then build that into your tool. I mean, we think of AI as kind of like a way of amplifying our intelligence, and this is a great way of looking at who's really strong and then building models around these experts.
Yep, exactly. It's a lot of machine learning models, right? A lot of them are convoluted and connected to each other, and ultimately, a lot of people ask me also for example, bias, right, in
Sure.
these models. So there might be bias in the models, but there's no bias in data,
right?
And then there's naturally a feedback loop of the recruiters that use it, and they would give us, say, hey, this candidate is a good fit, not a good fit. I want to see more of these guys. I want to see less of these guys.
Yeah.
And so the algorithms are always evolving and learning by itself. And there might be pockets of bias, and if there is a pocket of bias, then again, we rely heavily on our community and our advisors, right, to come back to us and say, hey, I see bias here, and say, okay, how can we fix it, right? So it creates ever-evolving like a relationship between us and our customers and partners and advisors and the sourcing community at large, and helps us really evolve. That's how we've grown. Right, the company and the product, and that's how we'll keep growing and evolving. So
sure. So you mentioned bias. That's a really interesting topic. Do your algorithms just sort of run on their own and do their magic, sort of in an agnostic way, or are there things that you consciously need to do with your algorithms to avoid bias in selection?
Yes, absolutely. Right. There's a lot of algorithms that a lot of statistical models that automatically take out outliers, right? And normally you introduce bias by taking out outliers, but we have so much data that the outliers itself form like a cluster, right? So it's just a matter of putting in the work and building a model just for the outliers itself. And it is like the best people that I've worked with, for example, right? They haven't gone to Stanford or Berkeley or the Ivy Leagues, right? They might have not even graduated school, right? They might be high school dropout. So definitely not an average person, right? Who's not going to fit the average model, but there's enough of people like that. They are extreme high performers that didn't graduate that we can that the AI can essentially learn. And ultimately, the data doesn't lie, right? The engineers who built the models, there's 4, 5, 6 of them. They cross-check their work.
Got it.
So yeah, it's things can fall through the cracks, but there's many layers of review and minimizing bias.
And your algorithms are constantly improving. So as you get more feedback and you see how the results are playing out and you learn, then you can continue to enhance them and make them better.
Absolutely. Yes. That's a point of machine learning, right?
Yeah,
So,
and I mean,
we do have a
the
viewer.
Hiretual product get consistently better over the last couple of years. It's been an amazing progression to watch happen.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that a little bit, Michael?
Okay.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I actually did a webinar pretty early on, and I went down with Ninh to a staffing presentation earlier this month, and I looked at my initial slides and looking at the data. And when I initially did a webinar for them, I was really impressed that Hiretual had gone through like 38,000 candidate profiles. When I then took a look at what I was having Hiretual do now, that seemed like child's play in comparison. I recently had a search where I pretty much exhausted one of my AI search agents, but it reviewed over 2.7 million profiles, or it went through 2.7 million profiles. It analyzed like over 300,000, and it ended up delivering to me about 4,000 that I reviewed. And out of those 4,000, I contacted 800 that were on target. And so for me, I think the biggest advantage of AI is that it no longer puts me into these like rabbit holes on the internet that I used to fall into early in my career, where if you kind of went down the wrong title or the wrong skill set, it could send you in the wrong path and you could have 2 hours with nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I can't have 2 hours of wasted activity anymore.
Right.
And if I do 2 hours of sourcing, I want to get as much results as I can out of it and then move on to something else.
But what you just mentioned is astonishing in one sense. You said, oh, I worked with 4,000 resumes or candidates, and I narrowed it down to 800. I mean, the scale at which you're operating, at the speed at which you're operating,
speed too. Oh yeah.
That was just impossible a few years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so what it's doing is it's allowing me to be a better recruiter, right? Now I spend a lot more time crafting messaging, individual messaging to every person I reach out to. That goes a long way. And I'm currently consulting with a pretty top level startup in Silicon Valley, and that's what they expect. I can't get by with using a lot of the things I used in the past. That just won't cut it here, right? You've got to bring your absolute best game, best candidate experience, best practices involved. But you also still need to be doing, keeping at the same pace. I work with people who have a very growth focused mindset, and it is about flooding the funnel. But at the same time, doing it in the right way and using technology to allow you to do more with the time that you have. And that's really where a system like Hiretual benefits.
So that really leads me to the next question I have is and you really set the stage for this question really well. Like, how is the recruiter's job going to evolve over the next few years as AI and machine learning becomes more and more powerful? And you mentioned how you had to step up your game. So what parts of the job are going away? What parts of the job are we going to be spending more time? How do we need to evolve our game as recruiters? And how do we need to evolve our skills as recruiters to keep up with the changing recruiting technology landscape?
I have a
That's
thought.
a question for both of you, starting with Michael.
So it's funny because I think that we're doing a full cycle. And coming back to recruiting being about relationships, right? If you look at like the recruiters like in Mad Men, right? Like the agency recruiters, they knew everybody in the space, right? And it was all about the relationships they had built. And I think initially recruiting was very focused on that, but then with the advent of LinkedIn and with technology and with being able to, for the first time, reach out to masses of people, we've gotten away from the relationship as we embrace the technology to do volume. But now people are a little bit burnt on the volume, right? And they want to go back to like the personalized out. I mean, especially when I look at the people who respond, they respond a lot more and they open a lot more emails the more personalized it is. So I think what it's going to do is the technology is going to allow people to develop the volume, but also to have the time to create the personalization. And I think that's really where recruiting is coming back to and going to be going to into the future. And just being able to do more, but having candidates delivered to you when you need them, having candidates delivered when they're available. I would love to get us away from this feedback loop of engineers hating recruiters because we spam them constantly,
Right.
That is an advent from AI that I'm looking forward to.
Right.
Have people being able to notify people when they're available,
Yeah.
and maybe even set up a list of their most preferred organizations, and then
Right.
being able to facilitate those relationships at that time.
Right. Right. Yeah, you made a tremendous number of great points. One of the most important ones, in my view, is the availability. Is someone available or not, or interested or not? I mean, so much of the way we outreach is impacted by not knowing that somebody is available or not. Ninh, did you have any thoughts on the evolving role of the recruiter?
Yeah. So just talking about the availability, right? Think about how much data there is out there about companies, right? Who's leaving the company, if they're going up and down. Average recruiter, if they are not investor in finance, they don't follow stocks, right? They don't check hundreds of companies. If some of the senior leadership has left, they wouldn't know that. But AI does, because it's linked to all that data, right?
Sure.
And so if let's say a VP of engineering leaves at XYZ company, then we'll give you the signal, hey, these engineers, there might be something happening inside our company, and they might be more available. Combine it with other signals. The stock is down like 20%.
Right.
And now you have a really strong signal for a candidate to leave, or think about at least being open to a conversation with you. Right.
Got it.
And again, I want to reiterate what Michael said. It's all about relationships ultimately, right? The best recruiters, they understand that. And what AI will allow you to do, some of the sections of recruiting, for example, insourcing itself is screening candidates, screening and reading resumes and reading profiles, right? Nobody likes that. Nobody likes reading resumes and profiles, right?
Sure.
That's part of sourcing that everybody hates, and that's something that our AI is essentially trying to do faster, more accurately, and better, right? To give you really strong signal. You can skip all that reading and just look at the person and decide to engage or not.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah, and I would say that there was a period where I would probably have been afraid to recruit without LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here seriously questioning whether I'm even going to renew my LinkedIn Lite license next year. Hiretual's gotten so good, I've gotten to the point where I'm depending upon the information that they're delivering to me in their profiles, and they even will indicate if a person is likely to leave or not. I'm finding that information to be very accurate, and to the point where I'm filling my funnel with candidates, and I've never gone to their LinkedIn profile at this point. I'm completely relying on the data that I'm getting from Hiretual, and it's accurate. And I think that's an indicator of what's to come as well. LinkedIn has been kind of like the only game in town for a long time, but even when I worked at really large organizations that had LinkedIn Recruiter, nobody really used a lot of the functionality inside of LinkedIn Recruiter. It was mainly for the full network aspect, right?
Sure.
And so I think one of the advantages of newer tools, and I think one of the reasons why I really fell in love with Hiretual, when I was at Dropbox, I had the LinkedIn Recruiter, and they had the whole suite, and you could see if any Dropbox recruiter had ever looked at a candidate profile, I could see it. Well, using Hiretual, I was consistently finding managers and directors and senior levels at companies like Google and Facebook and LinkedIn who had never been looked at by a Dropbox recruiter before.
Wow.
To the point where I was amazed by it.
And
it was just because I didn't kind of qualify for their Connectifier account, so I paid for Hiretual out of my own pocket, and I ended up recruiting circles around a lot of the other recruiters as a result. And so that kind of goes to my point that moving forward into the future, I think it'd be wise if companies would give their recruiters their own budget for tools.
Yeah.
And maybe come up with a list of, well, these things will integrate well within our system. Go ahead and choose from these and find out what's works best. And then have your people show you what works best for your industry and for your particular function. One tool could work really well for finance and accounting, but not work really well for engineering. And right, and vice versa. So I think especially with SaaS, as it grows and more systems get integrated, it's really a great time to be a recruiter.
Yeah, so before the show got started, we talked a little bit about tools and the stack of tools that we use for recruiting and the need to review that on a very regular basis. And it used to be we could go years and sort of use the same tools, but But what you were suggesting is that we really need to review our complete tool set at least annually.
Annually, yeah, absolutely. With as fast as SaaS is developing, to lock yourself into a multi-year commitment,
yeah,
you could really, and I can tell you this, I went into a global recruiting management position a few years ago, and my boss had already bought like 40 grand worth of LinkedIn. And that following 18 months was recruiting with one arm tied behind my back. And it really reinforced it. And that was when I really started looking at tools, because I didn't have any budget. So I've always been good at trying to find free resources and putting them to use. And that's actually, I think, when I first stumbled upon Hiretual and started using them, just their free version. And I've gone from being a free version user all the way up to now using their premium offering that I pay for. But I feel is worth every penny of it.
So your suggestion is for talent technology or talent acquisition leaders just to give their own budget to each recruiter and say, hey, we know you're going to need tools. We know each of you are going to use a different set of tools. So select the tools that are right for you.
It could be for sourcing. It could be candidate selection. Perhaps they want to go with HireVue or something like that. They have hiring managers who really do well with like video interviews or something like that. Whatever unique blend of technology will allow them to do their job most effectively. But then also not having their hands tied, right? Because what if something else comes out the following year that's much better? Well, you could drop what you were using before, pick up the thing new, as long as it integrates into whatever ultimate ATS system you're using.
Yeah.
Which also then goes to really having a modern hiring framework and technology that allows easy integration, something like Lever or Smart Recruiters or Greenhouse, things like that.
Michael, I want to ask you one more question. So Ninh mentioned these signals about availability. Have you ever had a situation where you've called up somebody based on one of these signals that they might become available, and the person says, how did you know that I might be looking?
I haven't gotten someone say, how do I know they might be looking?
Or something like that.
Well, I mean, because now with modern systems, you can take a look and see what type of open rate you have and what type of click rate you have. And I mean, using Hiretual, I'm consistently above a 10% on an open rate, which is, I mean, if you talk to most modern salespeople, anywhere like 3 to 5% is pretty successful.
That's high.
I think I showed Ninh my mix max the other day for my business, and he was like, "Whoa." Because I had such high open rates, and a lot of that is just because these new tools allow you to do a lot of. You can sit down for an hour or two and do a lot of customization, and then just start pumping volume into it. And it makes everybody feel like they're getting customized messaging when that's really, that's where the magic is, right? I think any good salesperson can kind of tell you it's like a fine line between kind of canned and custom, but being able to put out volume as well. And that's what, tools like Hiretual are great at giving you a lot of people to then reach out to. And be very targeted, right? Like I'm at the point now where I'm reaching out to 200 salespeople a week with customized messaging. In addition to doing about 30 or 40 phone screens a week and building some frameworks and other stuff as well. And so I don't think without having tools like Hiretual and having like a really great ATS system like Lever that allows me to build sequences with Nurture, I wouldn't be able to be as effective as I am.
Yeah, so right there is kind of the future of recruiting. It's faster and you can handle a higher volume of recs.
Yeah.
With
being a technology expert,
it's going to become more efficient.
Yeah, any recruiter out there, I would really stress like become a technology master in what applies to you and your business, and it's going to serve you well. I've always been kind of a fan of like Gary Vaynerchuk, who talks a lot about arbitrage, which is getting in on new technology before everybody else gets into it. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, you can really learn how to use it best and use it for your purposes, and it always allows you to kind of keep one step ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
Which is really what it comes down to.
Especially,
yeah.
I want to ask you a question. If I'm a candidate and I know that there's going to be more and more sophisticated AI out there, how is my behavior and my resume likely to evolve to become more visible and have a greater chance of being hired?
I think there's going to be a lot of people that will try to understand the system how the AI works, how it reads my resume and profiles and puts all the data together about me. And some of them will realize that, loading your resume and faking your title and so on and so forth won't cut it anymore, right, in the long run. And just because the system will even get more accurate in the selection of your skill set and candidates for the jobs that you have, right? People will want to put the things that they either want to work in or they actually do, so they get jobs that are accurate for them, right? And if they don't, then again, we'll see that they're most likely an outlier and they're not an engineer and they're tech support, for example, right? So you won't get engineering jobs, and the recruiter might see it, right? People will try to essentially figure out the system and then how to game a system.
Right.
Because the next generation, right? They're super tech savvy. They understand technology. AI, machine learning is here to stay, right? It's people are already playing with like Siri and Alexa and Google Assistant and trying to see, hey, can it answer this math problem of if two objects are traveling from the same direction or different directions at some speed, can it answer that question, right? And if it can, what questions it cannot answer, right? So even recruiters are trying to push technology to the boundaries. I know Michael does, right? Me and him talk maybe once a week, every weekend. He like at 1 or 2 a.m. and says, "Hey, Ninh, can you do this? Can you do that?" Right?
Yeah. It's the only time I get to source, man. It's the only time I get to source in the middle of the night, and I'll ping him on Facebook when I have problems, and half the time he's usually awake. But he said something that kind of got my mind thinking, and so here's a benefit to AI. Like if an AI can learn all the job titles at a corporation, right? And then it finds somebody and they have a job title that doesn't fit into any of the titles in the corporation, that could be a flaw. Maybe this person is embellishing. Maybe this person is claiming a title that they didn't have.
Right.
And so I think AI really just kind of it pulls the veil back, and it gives the recruiters a lot more accurate, timely information. And I look forward to seeing these systems develop over time and being able to deliver more and more results like that.
Yeah.
Allowing people to make good decisions and allowing you to really kind of tell the difference between like the fakers and the people who are really doing it, right?
Yeah.
Sure. So
and ultimately, I want to tie that back to making the good decisions and building better relationships, right? I even feel like if you get it really right and it works. So right now, you get, let's say, 100 results and 30% match, right? And then you run the new search, you get 100 results and 50 of them match. You get 100 results and 60, 70, 80% of them match, right? So you'll have a lot of time to do what good recruiters do, right? And right now, I think our recruiting industry doesn't get a lot of good rap with job seekers, candidates, but right at the same time, there are a lot of recruiters that build friendships, real, genuine friendships with people that they serve, right? The candidates. So over time, there's going to be more good guys that get a lot of help from an AI technology that might turn around completely.
Right. So many great points. I want to ask one more question, and then let's turn to our questions from our viewers. So, Ninh, I've theorized that AI is going to become dramatically more powerful in the next several years. NVIDIA processors are getting much faster. We combine multiple processors together and to perform AI operations. The algorithms are becoming much more sophisticated that we have available through these machine learning and AI tools in the cloud. How quickly do you see AI evolving within tools like Hiretual? Can you see order of magnitude improvements in the next several years in the sophistication of these tools?
I can tell that our AI, the speed of our machine learning models evolving is about every week. We push out an update.
So you're seeing
every
weekly improvements in the quality of your
weekly
algorithms.
improvements. Yeah.
Wow.
The more people use it, the more people are pushing the good fit, no fit, and are hoping to dial the algorithm in.
Yeah,
the better it's going to become over time.
Yeah.
The more data that it ingests, the better it's going to be. And that's why we're living in an exciting time. We're on the precipice of a brand new world, right? Where we're letting data do the work for us instead of just guessing at what the data says.
No, literally every week we have engineering meetings, right? I can't tell you everything about them, but one of the metrics we look at is qualified candidates over presented candidates, and the number increases every single week.
Wow. That's fascinating.
And this is just the start still. So
yeah, I know. We're just in the, as Jeff Bezos famously has said in AI, the batter isn't even at the first inning of the first at bat, right? It's just
they're
so
still in the
early
locker
on.
room talking about what they're going to do.
Yeah,
really, and that's so I guess the good news for recruiters is that those days of just hours and hours of sourcing without maybe any results to show for are gone.
Yeah.
As long as you have the right tool. And even with a tool like Hiretual, their mid-tier tools like $89 a month, I think. Is that correct, Nen? I mean, that's affordable enough for any recruiter to pay. And I would encourage anybody, pay for it out of pocket and see what type of results you get.
Sure.
My director at Dropbox called me a sourcing magician. I told him, hey, it's Hiretual. It's not me. It's the tool that I'm using, but I don't think it ever quite got through to him. But it really is nowadays the tools that you use. That's how you can set yourself apart. I think in any profession.
That's a really great point. Again, going back to having a budget for tools, as a recruiter, you can really set yourself apart based on the stack of tools that you use to perform your job.
And I don't think that companies care about you necessarily working harder and harder and harder. They just want results, right?
Just want results.
So if you're able to get the results and not work as hard, and you have a more stable life,
right?
Why wouldn't other recruiters want to emulate that and duplicate that, right?
Yeah.
I have been a recruiting leader, and for me, if I saw one person was killing it with 50% effort because they had set up the right tool stack, I would make them the lead and have them teach what they're doing to everybody else. Yeah. And then I would also encourage those people, listen, don't take this as gospel, variate off of what they showed you, and try to outdo them, try to build something that's better than what they're doing. I mean, that's what leaders are supposed to do, right? Sure. Really encourage people forward. They're not just supposed to make one big capital purchase. Everybody use the same thing. I don't care if it works for you or not. And that's how it's always been.
Yeah. All right. We could go on for quite a while. This is a fascinating discussion. Christine, do we have any questions?
We do have a couple questions. One that came in a little bit earlier is around text parsing technology. The question is, where is text parsing technology going, and what is considered as good quality of parsing? Will AI work in sync with parsed data in real time?
This might be a good one for Ninh.
Yeah, text parsing, these days, it's essentially from the basics. So, for example, when you parse resumes, right, you look at the organization of the resume. Where's the title? Where's the contact information? Where's the educational fields? And where's the academic history, work history, and skill set? And going beyond that, and essentially figuring out what are some of the key keywords or skill sets, or essentially parse out information. Now, beyond just understanding what the text says, it's essentially about context of the resume, right? And that goes into analysis and getting even more data about the person outside of just that one resume, right? To figure out, hey, is this guy what he says he is, or how good he is in Python, or whatever skills that he put in, right? And comparing it to all the other people that it looked at, all the other resumes that it looked at, right? And also comparing it to your job description. So, for example, another parsing is job description parsing, right? What is fluff and what is real, right? We know job descriptions, it's an art in itself. Some hiring managers write them, some recruiters write them. I know, for example, Textio does analysis on how you should post a job so that it appeals to more diverse candidates, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You do it on your messaging too. Textio is a cool tool.
Right. So there's a lot of things happening, right? Ultimately, again, with more data and smarter algorithms, it becomes smarter. It has better text parsing. It has better accuracy, right? Ultimately, there's a saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah,
So,
got it.
And just reinforcing, Maurice, that the key factor is time, right? The more time you can save and the more focus you can be on what you're doing, the more effective you're going to be in the long run.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all about time.
And kind of tying it back to my first point, there's people that write amazing job descriptions and amazing resumes, right? And a lot of these tools will allow you to bridge that gap between, I never wrote a job description before. Here's some of the things that I can take, actionable things, recommendation, insights, whatever it is, to write one. Or here's some of the things that I can look at from the resume, right, that should be highlighted for me quickly to understand what the person does.
Got it. Christine, do we have any more questions?
Yeah. Yes. Couple more. Quickly, someone had asked, let's see, how will AI help us to screen the candidate or connect with them on Facebook or LinkedIn? And then another viewer asked for Michael to reiterate the tools in addition to Hiretual that he is using, specifically the ATS. So the first question is,
okay, sorry.
Facebook. Sorry. How will AI help us to screen candidates or connect them with Facebook or LinkedIn? And then, Michael, if you could comment on your tools.
I don't think AI will necessarily help us screen candidates. What AI is going to be, I know there are tools out there like Ally, who's like kind of like a virtual bot, recruiting coordinator. I think what AI is going to do is it's going to free up a lot of the time that sourcing is traditionally taken from a recruiter's time, and it's going to allow them to focus really on building the relationships and building a better, more comprehensive process, if that makes sense. And then in terms of the tools that I currently use in my stack, we use Lever currently with the consulting client that I'm with, which is a really great applicant tracking system. I have it integrated with Hiretual. We also integrate with DocuSign so that we can do kind of electronic all of our offer letters and everything like that. I'm a huge fan of a tool called Text Expander, which now works on PCs. It's traditionally just been for Macs. In fact, I just upgraded to their SaaS-based version. Text Expander allows you to put like a little snippet, like a semicolon CAL. We'll put in my calendar link, right? So you can do a lot of customization, like a lot of the customization I do, I break down into different snippets that I can then customize. And then as I'm delivering my message, I just select from which snippet I want to use and then customize that snippet as I'm doing my messaging. So there's still kind of a canned element to it, but it's just the basic framework in the structure. And so in terms of like my day-to-day go-to tools, besides my computer, would be Hiretual, Lever, Text Expander are probably my big three. And then there's alternative sites like AngelList and Hacker News and Stack Overflow and a lot of other type of free resources that you can use as well. But when it comes to where I spend money, I try to go where it's going to count.
That's interesting.
I think outside of a LinkedIn license, which I don't necessarily know if you need anymore, I think just paying good money for a sourcing tool, the company will probably have the ATS. So I think, for the recruiter's perspective, buying tools that work on your computer like Text Expander allow you to be more efficient, and then finding a good sourcing tool would probably be the top priority.
Yeah, and it's not like, it sounds like you don't need a lot of tools. You
Not
just
a lot,
need to have the right tools.
Just the right tools, absolutely. Something like Text Expander can really make you a master on a computer. Like you would not believe, right? And I show people how I use it. They're like, oh, wow. And I first got exposed to it at Google. Credit due, right? Everybody there at Google used it. I wanted to make sure that I was kind of meeting that standard, so I figured out how to use it, and I'm really glad I did.
How much time per week do you think Text Expander saves you?
Oh, a lot. At least 10 hours a week, if not more.
That's crazy.
It's unbelievable. I mean, just for like the customized messaging, right? I've broken it down into 6 different variations based upon what I see in the LinkedIn profile. Like if they put like a whole bunch of stats about how they're killing it in their job, I've got one that's like semicolon when. That's like great job crushing it at, and then you can put like little tokens in for like drop downs. So then I can just put the name in, and so you can really customize it. Like you put in the shortcut, it pops up a box that's got these empty blank boxes, and then you can just put the names in, and then you hit enter, and it drops it right in where you want it.
Got it.
Something like that saves me so much time, and it also allows me to operate at higher level. Like my consulting client, I always used to just put MD at the end of my emails, and they're like, hey, just put your signature. So I just made a signature, put it into text expander, made the shortcut semicolon SIG, and so now instead of doing MD, I just do semicolon SIG, and I drop in my signature. A little bit more polished professional appearance, just a slight variation in how I work, right?
Got it.
It's another thing as well. Like the tools only use if you use them. So you also have to get to build habits,
right?
And change habits. Don't get set on one thing. You've got to be willing to drop stuff and adopt new things. That's also very important.
Yeah. So text expander and Hiretual is the magic combination.
So that's my magic combination. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Christine, any other questions?
Nope, not at this time. Some duplicates of other questions that have been answered, but
Maurice.
I think there was a question about how we help people connect with candidates on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Yes.
You'll have a social link there.
Yes,
right
that was
a
previous question.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're nearing the end of our session today. Ninh and Michael, is there anything else that you want to share with us that we may have missed in this session? Start with you, Ninh.
I was going to say that for tools, Calendly, Calendly. I used to pay for a tool called Time Trade. I started paying for that like in 2008, but I don't pay for it anymore because Calendly will give you like 1 30-minute interview or meeting. And for when I come into a new client, I always make a new Calendly link and then connect it to the Gmail calendar.
Sure.
Obviously, a lot of this stuff is dependent upon using Gmail. If you're still using a very Microsoft Windows or Outlook-oriented system, you're going to be limited. So a lot more encouragement for you to get yourself fully onto the cloud.
Got it. Ninh, what are your thoughts?
I was going to invite people to essentially check out the webinar that we are hosting on September 20th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can register at hiretual.com/hiretualpro webinar staffing tech, right? And it's going to be me and Michael really using and showing you how the sourcing AI works, and you can actually see, a grandmaster, a sourcer, and the technologies at work, and how we can easily fill week after week, his days with 6 or 7 or 8 phone screens and phone conversations with candidates, right, consistently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael, any final thoughts?
I would say that it is a brave new dawn of recruiting technology.
Yep.
And I think anybody out there should be really excited about being a recruiter or coming into recruiting at this particular point. It's a heck of a lot easier than it was when I first started. I like to joke my first applicant tracking system was one of those metal manila folder holders that you would stack the manila folders up, and then I would print out all the resumes and put them into my folder, and that was my applicant tracking system. To have come from that to what I'm doing now in just one career it's unbelievable. And
it is unbelievable, isn't it? How much change
it's got me so excited about what's to come. Because it really is. I guess the final thought is I interviewed someone who built a lot of the internal tools at Facebook and was the CTO of a large technology company. And I asked, well, when is AI going to replace a recruiting coordinator? And he's like, it's not about that. It's about allowing that recruiting coordinator to do 10 times more. It's about having the information come to them when they go to set up an interview schedule without them having to go out and search for it.
Yep.
And so when you look at it in that context, AI technology is not something to be afraid of. It's something to embrace because it's going to make you better at your job. It's going to make you a better recruiter, and it's going to get better results for your company.
Yeah, I completely agree. This AI is to be embraced, not something to be afraid of. It will improve quality, speed and efficiency. So with that, I want to thank both of you. I learn a lot every time I talk with you guys. Thanks everyone on this call for joining us. And I want to remind you that StaffingTec TV episodes weekly every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, featuring different staffing industry technology solutions and leaders every week. So next week's episode will be on the topic of leveraging texting, AI, and chatbot technologies to reconnect and disconnect in candidate engagement. So there's still time to register. If you're interested in learning more about how Hiretual can cut down your sourcing time and deliver more interesting and better candidates faster, you can reach out to Ninh at the end of this webcast and provide your contact details, and they'll circle back to you. So thanks everyone, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye, Ninh.
Thanks, Barry.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you guys want